welcome to the show. I'm Antisocial. And this is the Antisocial Network.
I want to talk to her, but my face is up against the wall. Yeah, I think she wants to talk to me, but I'm antisociable. Yeah.
This week, I'm talking about applying for jobs post-pandemic, and specifically my experience applying for the listicle website Ranker. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to talk about looking for work post-pandemic, and more specifically, my experience applying for the listicle website Ranker. First of all though, can we even say post-pandemic anymore? With the new variants rising and so many still refusing to get vaccinated, we're still very much in the middle of a pandemic. But nonetheless, the country is opening back up and a significant portion of the nation's workforce is returning to work. Restaurants and fast food chains across the country have put up snide notes about how no one wants to work due to government handouts. Employers are openly ridiculing the workforce for, quote, not wanting to work, while also trying to lure new employees by any means possible. I've seen promises of a free meal with completed application, something bosses are calling cell phone breaks, and even appealing to parents to bring their kids in to apply. It would seem that employers are desperate for employees, yet employees aren't desperate to work. If all these jobs are like family and have such great perks, then why so many "we're hiring" signs? Perhaps it's because free fries is not a substitute for competitive wages and benefits. But the truth is that I do need money. I can criticize capitalism all I want, but I still have to live in it and buy things and pay bills. Resigned to this fate, I have started reaching out to creative jobs that might allow me to continue to do what I'm doing right now, and perhaps even get paid for it. After searching podcasting in Indeed, the job search website, I found an ad for something called a publishing ops specialist/content creator for a company called Ranker. If you're not familiar with Ranker, you've probably read one of their articles or seen a post shared on Facebook or something. They're one of those big listicle sites that post articles in the form of lists while also providing trending pop culture information or educational blurbs. Like a Cracked or a Bored Panda, these companies have always had a mysterious LA attraction about them. By that I mean they always tout themselves as the cool hip job for young hot people in LA. You know the type. Free snacks, yoga Wednesdays, everyone owns a leather jacket and wears lots of scarves. The sort of jobs you see in TV shows that 20-somethings in New York have, where it seems like they're late to work all the time and don't really do anything, but somehow have the nicest apartment in the city. The sort of cool kids jobs you see depicted in the show Love, or Shrill, or You're the Worst. The type with a shared office space with sweeping views of the city and LaCroix on tap. Anyway, for a fairly significant portion of my life, I thought this was my dream job. I wanted to be a writer, and I thought working for one of these content mills with a bunch of young cool people would mean I had made it. I had spent a good year and a half pitching articles to the Cracked Writers' Room completely in vain, getting a sentence of feedback once every 6 months. I had applied over and over again to these LA-based writing gigs, and after a while came to the conclusion that a lot of the people doing these jobs are just freelance writers piecemealing together an income in a gig economy anyway, and I gave up. So, when I saw the ad for a content creator/publishing ops specialist whatever, I was skeptical just because I was familiar with Ranker and I was not looking to apply to more entry-level writing jobs. At this point, I was promoting my podcast and my body of work that is my brand, the Antisocial Network. But when I clicked on the job listing, I thought, oh, this is something different. Despite saying that the job required some writing, the ad was specifically for what they called channel crew content creators, and looked very different from ads for writers that I'd seen from Ranker in the past. The following are excerpts from the ad. This role will involve content curation in the form of written and visual content, social posts, videos, and sharing content that is hot in the moment for different niche audiences. We are looking for people who are comfortable with regular collaboration with your channel. A great sense of humor and an ability to convey it is a big plus. The ad mentions trying to attract creators with existing audiences who might be TikTokers, podcasters, or social media influencers, stating, "Sure, a resume is needed, but we're more interested in how you think. Send us tangible evidence of who you are and why this role is perfect for you. This could be stuff you've written or produced, your Twitter feed, your Reddit persona, whatever we can quickly scan to see if it's worth a deeper conversation." And while the ad was pretty vague about what exactly they were looking for, there wasn't much info about being a writer or fulfilling assignments in that capacity. It read very much like they were looking for unique and independent artists who were interested in collaborating using their existing platforms and audience. Despite Googling publishing ops specialist and sleuthing on LinkedIn, I still couldn't figure out exactly what the job was for. Nonetheless, I was excited and submitted a resume with links to my social media and podcast and then forgot about it. A month or 5 weeks later or so, I got a text from someone from Ranker stating they would like to move forward with me for the content creator role. Those were the exact words used in the text. Thrilled, I texted back and set up a phone interview to be confirmed via email. When I checked my email, I noticed that I had actually already missed an email from Ranker a few days prior. Surprised that they reached out and got in touch with me via text when I had missed their initial email, I thought to myself, wow, they must really want me. My interview was scheduled for a few days later with a different person than the one who had texted me. I googled their name and tried to find out more about the person who would be interviewing me, but I couldn't find much. I messaged a friend for input because it had been so long since I applied to the job I wasn't even sure what I was applying to anymore. How can I do research to prepare for my interview when I don't even know what the fuck I'm applying to, I thought. My friend sent me links and information she was finding on freelance writing for Ranker, but I insisted it wasn't that type of job. I'd applied to those types of jobs several times in the past, and this job listing looked nothing like those. Then I sent her the link and she agreed. It appeared like I was applying for something totally different. When my phone interview came, the first question I was asked was to describe a little about myself and why I think I'm perfect for the job. I launched into a monologue about how I've always have had a drive to create content and be in front of an audience, and how important launching my podcast was for me. I talked at length about my podcast episodes and the sort of content I cover. Then, I'm not gonna lie, the interviewer seemed a little lost. She feigned interest and asked more questions, but it was clear to me that she had no idea about my podcast and that all the content I had submitted with my application to even be considered for this phone interview had not been looked at. They continued to ask me questions about my social media use, in which I said several times that I'm bad at Twitter, and redirected the conversation to my research-based, often very academic podcast content. At this point in the interview, I was more confused than ever about what the hell was going on, so I started asking the questions. I asked how many people they were hiring and found out vaguely that it was a lot, and that they were forming something new called the Trending Team. The job ad specifically said they were looking for people to create content for their weird history, graveyard shift, and total nerd portions of their site. It said nothing about being on a trending team, and had I fucking known that I was applying for that, I sure as shit would not have said twice in the interview that I was bad at Twitter, for Christ's sakes. I started to feel completely duped. I asked how the workload was, saying, "Is it like the fulfill 5 pitches a week model?" to signal to them that I knew I was applying for a writing job, and they sounded kind of relieved and said, "Yes, it would be like that, but I can't give you any idea of how much assignments you'll get or any guarantee of work." Now I switched gears because I wanted to save face, and at this point I thought I still wanted the job, even if they didn't care about my podcast. After all, I had spent years trying to break into this industry, and it would be weird if the way I arrived there was through a strange back door I had entered thinking I was applying for something else entirely. I asked about how they were handling the pandemic and what the plan was to return to the office post-pandemic, and was reassured that while they have an amazing state-of-the-art office in downtown LA, that I can go in if I want to. No one was required to, and everyone was still working from home. I was also wooed by the idea of this, because coming out of the pandemic, continuing to work from home sounds ideal. However, I only want to do that if I can earn enough to live. And if I just end up piecemealing my income by struggling to get hours every week, then I haven't really leveled up, now have I? By the end of the interview, they told me that I was advancing to the next round and that the next step would be to complete a content creation test and return it within 48 hours. It was a Thursday, and the interviewer told me that I'd have an advantage over other candidates because no one worked on Sunday and my test wouldn't be viewed until Monday, in effect giving me an extra day. They told me they'd forward the email after our call, so I waited a couple hours and nothing came. By the evening, I was second-guessing everything and wondering if the real test was that I would have to follow up and ask for the damn content creation email. The next day, Friday morning, I called the number back from my interviewer and left a message, and I also sent an email to the original contact who had reached out to me, thanking them for the interview and also sort of telling on my interviewer for not sending me the content creation email, simply reiterating that I was still interested in the position. An hour or so later, the email arrived. I was to log into Google Docs and complete what was described as 3 tasks. At first glance, I was surprised that the document was 3 pages long of instructions, but figured they were micro-tasks. Again, I had applied to several writing positions in the past, so I was familiar with having to submit a writing sample or finish an assignment in order to be considered. 3 pages seemed long, but I thought they were likely not very time-intensive. But as I started in on the test and read further, I noticed the test wasn't 3 tasks at all. Each question had several caveats with additional bulleted instructions, not to mention it was written pretty poorly. I'm fairly self-motivated and ambitious, but this test was asking things of me that were not mentioned in the phone interview or the job ad whatsoever. The ad I had applied to stated that they were looking to hire content creators with all levels of experience and that they were more interested in how my mind worked than what my resume said. Yet, the content creation test they sent me was an obvious formula for their banal listicle content, asking me to comment on celebrity bodies and Photoshop a Facebook post. Where had they said that I would be required to fucking know Photoshop? I mean, I do, but that's not what I signed up for. It began to be clear to me that the depth and time requirement it would take to complete the assignment they sent was absolutely ludicrous. If you don't believe me, you're in luck. I saved the entire thing and I'm about to read it for you now. Remember, if this comes off convoluted and confusing, it doesn't just sound that way. It's written with no semblance of continuity in regards to bullets or numbering. I challenge you to count along as I read it aloud and try to determine just how many different tasks are being asked here. I now present to you Ranker's content creation test I was given 48 hours to complete. 1. Your assignment is to put together a list of 10 photos that show incredibly heartwarming moments throughout history. Please include the images and answer the questions below. A. Where do you go to find these images? Keep in mind that the images must be in the public domain, or your use of them must be justified under the U.S.'s Fair Use Standard. Please list the websites, search terms, and the ways you would use to find these images below. B. What would you title this list? What is the intro to this list? Please write your answers below. C. Now give us 5 headlines of lists that you would do, similar to the lists you just brainstormed on. 2. Your assignment is to assemble the following 2 lists, doing your best to deliver on the content idea while also matching the voice and tone of Ranker.com. Each list should have 4 images. For each image, please include 1. An image title, 2. 1 to 3 sentences of editorial/instructions, and 3. A link to the original source where you found that image. Image selection should strive to be informative, funny, interesting, moving enough that each image would stand out on its own, even without editorial. List number 1. Title: How Celebrities Trained for Their Ripped Roles. 4 images that fit this concept with accompanying informational editorial. List number 2. Come up with your own informative history list. Choose your own concept. Gallery title: 4 images with accompanying editorial. 3. Your assignment is to put together a roundup of a new meme format. The roundup should have 10 memes total, all in the same format. Here's an example on Ranker. A. Where do you go to find these images, and how do you go about collecting them? Please list the websites, search terms, and other ways you would use to find these images below. Since these are memes, we assume our use of them is justified by the US's fair use standard, so we aren't concerned about copyright issues. B. Out of the 17 photos in this Google Drive folder, which would you choose for your list? Please place them below, in the order you'd have them on the list. C. What would you title this list? What is the intro to this list? Please write your answers below. Antisocial here, hi. That's not all, there's more. Sorry to interrupt, but this next part is also just tacked on to the content creation test at the end without a number or a bullet. There is a photo attached of a screenshot of a Ranker Facebook post. In the screenshot, Ranker has posted a quote from Martha Stewart, which reads, "Just got home, let out the dogs. Within minutes, they cornered, attacked, and killed an opossum. Had to wash little bloody mouths. Life on farm. Martha Stewart, 2009. Accompanying Ranker's Facebook post is a link to an article titled 22 Celebrities with the Strangest Twitter Accounts, aside a photo of a cow posted by Martha Stewart. Now, on to the rest of the content creation test. Social. Take your best shot at improving this Facebook link post for clicks and engagement. For your reference, here's the list. Celebrities with the weirdest Twitter accounts. Elements you could change. The top copy, thumbnail, headline can be different than the site headline. You can mock this up in Photoshop and paste the image in this doc, or link to it in this doc. The mock-up doesn't need to be perfect, but it does need to coherently get the idea across. We do really want to see what you do with the thumbnail. Okay, now that's the end. Before I break it down for you all and read you the email I sent them back, ripping them a new asshole, let's cut to break. Introducing a brand new, innovative, interactive addition to your social media platform. Dial-a-Poll is the new in-phone voting system to up your engagement. Download Dial-a-Poll in the App Store and simply ask your followers a question. It can be on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram Stories, Snapchat, or even here, in the middle of your podcast. Here, let's try it right now. If you like the ads on my podcast, The Antisocial Network, press 1 on your keypad now. If you think they're stupid and want me to stop, press 2. If you want to order a pizza with extra cheese to be delivered in 30 minutes or less, press 3. And if you are desperate for human connection, haven't had a hug in over a year, and have no idea when this godforsaken life will end, press 4. Now, I have easily and effectively polled my audience using invasive illegal software without their consent. It's really that easy. Download Dial-a-Poll today. And thanks for voting. Are you tired of at-home tattoo treatments that leave your spouse disappointed and your skin infected? Do you want the professional look of your local tattoo artist, but their shop is out of range of your ankle monitor? If you've got that itch to get some new ink but can't afford the high prices of qualified artists every paycheck, then you need Madison Bleed. Started by a mom and named after her daughter's horrible tattoo, you too can use Madison Bleed to fix your fuck-ups at home. Not just for cover-ups, Madison Bleed is perfect for the novice tattooist and comes with a tracing guide for sparrows, semicolons, and foreign language symbols. Start designing your quality at-home tattoos today with Madison Bleed. And we're back. You have to admit, that's a lot. Still, it took me a while to come to terms with the fact that I was being dicked around with. I'm not a quitter, and I kept thinking about how when I was growing up, my music teacher would encourage me to audition for things all the time, even if I didn't want the role, just to gain experience auditioning. Something was compelling me to finish the assignment, if for no reason other than to prove to myself that I could. Besides, it involved finding memes and writing funny headlines, and I knew I could knock that out of the park. So I actually set to work and completed a few of the tasks. I gathered 10 memes for a list I titled 10 Dystopian Memes to Make Your Millennial Spread Their Avocado Toast Thinner. I rearranged the memes in the shared Google Doc, putting them in the right order to maximize laughs, and coming up with a few alternate headlines. I even had most of the How Celebrities Trained for Their Ripped Roles task done, which felt yucky and gross the whole time. After I'd completed a good portion of the content creation test, I had spent 3 hours and still had at least half left to do. It was untenable. I complained to my friend, the same one I had consulted before the phone interview, and she said, "So I was right, it is just a glorified freelance writing job." When I told her about the writing prompts to come up with the 10 heartwarming moments throughout history, as well as one to research and write about celebrities getting ripped, she uttered in disgust, "Ew, this sounds like they're giving you content antisocial would hate. Like, here, write shit that goes completely against your brand." And it hit me. What the fuck was I doing? For a moment, I considered doing the entire content creation test anyway, but fucking with them back. I was going to include trans actors and disabled actors in my post about celebrity bodies. I would change the post about heartwarming moments throughout history to people finding joy on a planet that's dying from climate change and capitalism. I'd really stick it to the man and say fuck their prompts. Then I just grew weary and wondered if it was worth it. I mean, half of these tasks are things that should require some training, or at the very least, be specified in the requirements portion of the job ad. What the hell is a mock-up anyway? When was I told that I'd have to know what the fuck qualifies as public domain? Do you know how long it took me to Google just that information? How much time are you really expecting a bunch of people who have not specified these skills in their job experience and who you have not recruited specifically to know this information to spend to do your stupid fucking content creation test? And do you think if you call the job content creator that you can con a bunch of creative hopefuls into working your stupid ass 9-to-5 grind? I started getting more and more upset. What was I doing wasting my time on this? Clearly, this was indicative of how the company would treat my time and creative abilities if I even got the job. Do I even want this job? I began asking myself. This bullshit was exactly why I decided to stop trying to break into this business years ago. I was sick and tired of spending countless hours pitching unique ideas for free and getting nothing in return. It dawned on me that I would be spending my entire weekend writing funny, clever, fresh content for them, and for what? Despite the nagging feeling that I was a quitter if I gave up on the writing assignment, I decided that I'd much rather spend my time, writing something like this about how applying to Ranker is fucking bullshit than spend another goddamn minute applying to Ranker. So I just didn't finish the assignment, and I figured that was that. When I got an email from Ranker on Tuesday, I was scared to open it at first. I actually had the audacity to think they cared that I didn't finish the writing assignment. After all, they went out of their way to contact me twice for the phone interview, and I had made it pretty clear the previous Friday via a phone message and email that I was interested in the job and wanted to complete the content creation test. I assumed they were emailing me back to ask what happened. "Everything was going so well, why don't you want to work for us?" I imagined the email saying. But when I finally did open it a week later, I couldn't believe it was a one-sentence rejection email about how they were going another way and would not be offering me the position. Excuse me, what? They clearly didn't care why I had not completed their absurd test or why I did not want the job, just like they clearly didn't listen to a second of my podcast or click a damn link in my application before offering me an interview. I fumed and steamed for an hour or two, then decided to shoot off an email in return. And this would be no "thanks for considering me" bullshit pandering. I told them what I really thought. Names have been changed. Phyllis. LOL at sending me a rejection email when I chose not to complete your ridiculous content creation test. You didn't dump me, I dumped you. For the record, I'm a content creator who works extremely hard to research, write, record, and edit my own podcast every week. The job ad I responded to on Indeed for Ranker was populated from me searching for podcast-related jobs. The ad itself claimed to be looking for content creators with their own brand and specifically stated, "Sure, a resume is needed, but we're more interested in how you think. Send us examples of any tangible evidence of who you are and why this role is perfect for you." I was delighted to show my work off and find a role that appeared to value independent creative thought. The listing actually had content creator in the title and mentioned searching for podcasters in the text of the ad. When I had my phone interview with Sunny, I was not only surprised that the job seemed to be for nothing more than a glorified freelance writer, but that she seemed to know nothing about my podcast or content I had submitted to be considered for the interview. It was a bait and switch. The job ad you have on Indeed is entirely deceptive. To dupe hopeful creatives into a formulaic office job under the guise of caring about what they bring and the brand they've built is crappy. Despite my hesitation over my vague phone interview, I'm also a writer and a researcher, and I had previously spent years trying to pitch articles to sites like yours, and decided to give the content creation assignment a go. I was surprised to see that the test was actually 3 bulleted assignments, written pretty confusingly, I might add, with each bullet having several caveats, making the assignment more like 7 tasks, not 3. Additionally, these were not abbreviated tasks, but pretty complicated asks that would have served as an adequate writing sample alone to expect from someone in a 48-hour window. I have applied to several writing positions that required a writing sample or test, but yours is absurdly excessive. Initially undeterred, I still decided to do the test because I'm a fucking good writer, am funny as hell, and I knew I would kill it. After collecting 20 memes and organizing memes from the shared Google Doc file and editing the Facebook post to perfection, I had spent 3 hours and there was still half the test to complete. And I didn't even have work to go to during that 48 hours, and I still thought it was an outrageous ask. I started to think this was probably indicative of how you'd respect my time if I got the job. Not to mention the fact that one of the tasks was to comment on celebrities' bodies, which I find abhorrent and completely goes against my values and brand. Not like you give a fuck, because that part of your job ad was a farce anyway. Just letting you know. Plus, post-pandemic, a lot of the workforce got unemployment that met their financial needs for the first time in their lives. The collective workforce is coming out of this with an understanding of our worth. Why would I give you 6 pages of free content that I labored over for 6 hours on my weekend when I could go work at Barnes & Noble for the same wages and actually have guaranteed hours? To you, this might sound like a me problem, but I assure you, this is a you problem. I took the time to write this email as a service to future applicants because y'all need to chill the fuck out with your hiring process. You could have had a bad bitch, but instead, good luck posting these ads for eternity and cycling through employees. I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors. I love that I ended it with, I wish you the best in your future endeavors. Fucking assholes. If they're looking for writers, then that's what they need to specify in their job ads. If they have to curate the language of their job ad and conduct vague interviews in order to lure people into their hiring process, then maybe what they need to do is offer competitive wages and benefits. Since you can no longer use the promise of beanbag chairs and free bagels in your DTLA office anymore because of COVID, I guess you had to resort to rebranding a basic-ass clickbait cog job as something alluring and glamorous like content creator. But it's disingenuous and false advertising. If you want people to work for your company, pay them well. Period. Like, that's it. I really don't care about your supportive environment where everybody else supposedly helps everyone out. And I sure as fuck am not going to be giving you content for free under the guise of some hoop I have to jump through to ultimately do you a favor and give you a reliable, creative, loyal employee. You can go fuck yourselves. That's my show for this week. If you want suggestions on more episodes like this one, check out episode 6 about the proposed $15 minimum wage, episode 14 called Fuck Work, and episode 20, Just the Tip. I'm Antisocial, and this has been the Antisocial Network. If you want even more access to me, Antisocial, follow me on Instagram at the Antisocial Network. To support my content creation dreams and to receive 2 bonus episodes a month, subscribe to my Patreon for only $5 at patreon.com/the Antisocial Network. And for a limited time, new patrons will receive Antisocial Network stickers and a top-secret handmade zine made by me, Antisocial. To send me voice memos or to submit your own funny fake ad that I might use in my podcast, download the Anchor app and find my show there. As always, new episodes are available in the free feed every week. See you next Wednesday. Later.
I think I'm a nice guy, but I'm antisociable, yeah. Antisociable.